So welcome, Wendy Muirhead, founding partner at WH People. I'm so excited to have you on HR and Payroll 2.0. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I've been dying to meet you in person again. And thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, I'm excited. Now, for those of you that don't Wendy, I feel like everybody knows Wendy. But if you don't know Wendy, longtime executive in this industry, HCM, you've been at Workday. I know Dayforce is where we cross paths. I would argue you are a mascot of the CIPP. I feel like everyone knows you, and you're such a recognizable face. But yeah, what's going on out there? I know you got a practice now on your own. I'm excited for you. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
I know you're killing it. Yeah, what's going on? What's the pulse of payroll right now out there?
Well, the whole thing of setting the business up was because I love global payroll.
Yeah.
That is something I'm super passionate about, have been for the last 20 years. And so we really focus on global payroll workforce management and help clients to really understand the market better, to cut through and see, like, when they're looking for information or they're looking for really great references, because the way that we navigate and understand the market, we actually can connect those people really quickly. So we're looking to drive value fast for anyone who's trying to understand about what's happening in their payroll world, whether it be operations or strategy or looking at different vendors in the market. That's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'd say at the moment that there's a real pulse on, especially in the UK market, Pete, there's a real pulse on, things that are changing with regards to fair work and legislation next year. So there's a lot of people that are like really leaning into national minimum wage, holidays, absence calculations, all of those things. So we're seeing a lot of things in that space. But equally, we're seeing a lot where organizations are actually trying to do an awful lot more with less.
Right.
Everyone is feeling the pinch, especially with the dip in the economy at the start of the year and things trying to build back up again. And I think what I saw, if I like reflect over the last 12 months, there was a lot of organizations that were actually really keen to do something and to get budgets put aside to buy something different. But because of that nervousness at the start of the year, with the tariffs and things coming in, it really had an impact on the economy. I think that CEOs were particularly cautious.
Right.
So I saw a lot of projects.
In the US too.
It's global. We've got clients that are in Europe, all over the UK, a couple in America as well. And we saw that, projects were shifting, but actually gave a great opportunity to get your house in order.
Yeah, right.
You see, I'm sure you've seen it before as well. And I know how experienced you are with your background in our crazy world of payroll. That actually getting your house in order, getting the governance, making sure you've got the really good documentation, make sure people are ready and you've got that opportunity to get them on board of this is a potential change. I've seen an awful lot more activity in that space.
Yeah, agreed.
Where I think has been really helpful. And I actually always have said for years and years that before you make a change, really review what you do and document it and see if there's something there that you can optimize to really evaluate whether the change is necessary or not. And if it is something that you can see and rectify, then build that in your business case.
Go after it.
I would say those are the kind of things. The compliance thing is always on our minds anyway. But in the UK market with the new legislation, I've definitely had more inquiries around that.
Yeah, I see some similar things too in the US, right? There's that cautious not cautious optimism, but cautious sort of wait and see. Let's preserve our cash. Let's not jump into anything right now. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy, and a lot of ups and downs, but we know we need to do some things. And you're right. There's some incremental. I've been telling folks, like, look, if you can't do everything you want to do what you can right now. Work on the low hanging fruit, right? Get yourself in shape, right? Get that data in shape. Get your processes in shape. And I love that. But did you notice yesterday in our session, we had a great session yesterday on software selection. Did you notice yesterday when they asked to open up, how many of you are changing your systems? It was only a few people.
It was only a few hands.
But when I asked how many of you think you should change your systems, about double or more of that went up, right?
Absolutely.
So we got some opportunities, and we know that there's data out there that payroll and time are a key area that folks are looking to improve on. So
you know what I noticed? Yeah. This is maybe just a sense that I got. I still think that a lot of leaders in payroll have to wait for permission from others to get budgets. So that question of asking versus we actually need to do something.
Yeah.
And there's the opportunity I see for the industry, right? On literally taking that moment of, I recognize something, and okay, I might not know how the business particularly wants to formulate a business plan, but
Right.
actually to take some of that, but stand up and lead it and champion for it and drive that change.
Yeah.
Because everyone, and we've seen, I've been doing a load of interviews with CEOs recently because I'm doing a white paper next year that I'll be publishing. And so I've been doing tons of interviews with CEOs to see how do they really view payroll.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, everyone sees it as SG&A.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. It's
absolutely
like
that
insurance,
push
something you
that
have to
button,
do. Yeah.
push
Yeah.
that button. And, really lead CEOs and C-suite, they really want to know if something happens and there's a bump. What's the contingency plan? How are
Yeah.
we going to work around it? And there's the opportunity for those people that know they need to change their technology, put their hand up. They can then start to think about how they can drive that activity and then shape it in a way that's going to, if this is going to happen and that bump's going to be, here's our plan.
Right.
And
Right.
here's our risk mitigation plan to be able to achieve the next milestone that the board are driving towards.
Yeah.
And that is what's going to elevate a strategic payroll leader in our industry.
Yes.
And it can feel a bit scary
Oh, yeah.
because you're putting your head above the parapet.
Yep.
You're having
Well,
conversations with lots of people to really champion. But when you're doing it for the good of the business, for
yes.
the good of the team, for the good of the whole growth synergy of the business, and in some cases survival.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah. Yeah.
organizations, if they don't move forward and adapt, they die.
I know, I know. Yeah, one of the things I've been trying to tell leaders for a few years now, especially with AI, I'm like, you have to, payroll cannot be led anymore. You have to lead. You're going to have to step out. You're going to have a point of view. You're going to have to become a consultant, a transformation, strategic partner, advisor to your business. And you're going to have a point of view that comes with data and a vision. I mentioned that yesterday. We in my research, we did something this year where we really dug into vision, strategy, and roadmap. Only about half have that. And those that do have exponentially better outcomes
Yeah.
than those that don't, versus just sort of shooting from the hip and saying, we're going to go kind of figure it out as we go. I think you've got to have that strategy and vision, and it'll help you as a leader be able to have a more, I think, solidified point of view that will maybe turn some heads and get you that support. But what do you think about the tone in the C-suite now? I've been really trying to use my research to talk to the C-suite to say,
Mhm.
hey, payroll is either now a competitive advantage or it's not, and you make your choice.
Yeah.
And it can be really risky if you don't do the right thing here. But what's the tone? Like, are C-suites coming around to the reality that payroll is a strategic enabler
No.
and that they have to really invest in this?
No.
No, not there yet.
Not yet. There's an awful lot
What do
more
we got
work
to
to
do to
do.
fix that?
I think it's that point. I
Yeah,
think it's really helping to drive that education
yeah,
so that payrollers are actually driving that change of mindset. We
yeah.
just heard a great session just earlier there around mindset and how to shift that with the
Right. Yeah,
motivational
yeah.
speaker.
That was great.
And there was a brilliant session. I don't know if I could take 3 teenage boys around the world for
On a
5
boat,
years
yeah,
though.
around the world on a boat. That was, I was just sitting there thinking like, I love the ocean, I love the water, but I'm not going that far out in the middle of it,
5
you know?
years?
Yeah,
5 years with
yeah.
3
How
teenage
about the lady
boys?
that raised her hand? It was such a cute question where she was talking about like, me and my husband are thinking about going on a sailing trip
That's
or whatever,
Karen.
and
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm ready to take direction from my husband. I feel like saying, well, it might be life or death, so you guys need to work this out. But yeah, I mean, you're right.
But
What do we do,
I think, but it's that educational shift.
Yeah,
And I think we have to champion, we have to help people in the industry to understand how to have those
yeah,
conversations and
yeah.
drive that conversation. That's a lot of the work that
They
we
are hard
do.
conversations
They
to have.
absolutely
Yeah,
are. And remember, people have a perception of what they're like when they're out there and they're
yeah.
presenting on stage and they're putting
And
themselves
payroll hasn't
forward.
always been looked to for that, right? That hasn't been the expectations of payroll. So I don't know that the skill set is in every payroll leader to be that ambassador, right? To
But
go and
people can
broker.
change.
Yeah,
People can
oh, certainly can
absolutely
learn.
change, and they
Certainly
can
can.
certainly learn in that area. You don't have to be the most boisterous to be able to drive
No,
that
no.
change. The quiet change could be actually an area that
Yeah.
really drives because if it
One
offers
impactful
strategic
thing can
value,
really move that needle for you.
saving money and
Yes.
preventing risk or reputational damage to a CEO and that
Yes.
C-suite,
Yes.
there's the key.
Yeah.
There's the absolute key.
Yeah.
You'll get their attention like with click of your fingers if
That's
you
what I
start
say. I
talking
always
about that.
say, listen, you have to, and we've got this in my research as well to prove that when the relationship with this executive C-suite is there, when payroll makes that, and it's a top down, bottoms up. Payroll's got to walk the talk and step out and out of their comfort zone and do that. But the C-suite has to give them the opportunity to have a line of sight and a voice. And good news is we're seeing that upward. The voice is going upward, and when that happens, the ROI is 3x. The engagement, the ability, the confidence that they can support their business's strategic direction, the reduction in risk is greater, and all of that is really, really showing itself for those that are making that bridge between their executive teams and themselves.
You raise a really
It's
interesting point.
collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That, and having a relationship with them, having a relationship and actually being able to have that conversation so that before the decisions are made,
Mhm.
they get the opportunity to actually hear and be consulted on. Is this a good thing for us to do?
Yeah.
I think that's the key with payroll. I was in a session recently with about 35 global payroll directors.
Mhm.
And I asked the question, who here joins the board meetings? Who joins the senior leadership team meetings?
Yeah.
And they all laughed and said, I
Not
couldn't
many.
think of
Yeah.
anything worse. Actually, they didn't want to be involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what they do want is to be heard and to be consulted before big decisions are made so that they're
Exactly.
not
Informed.
reactively
Informed. Yes. Yes.
dealing with the situation that's presented upon them. I mean, over the last 20 years, I've worked with organizations where big decisions have been made in HCM, and the payroll team are the last to know.
That's
They're
awful.
sitting in
That's
that
awful.
discovery
Yes.
session and they're
Yes.
like, what we have to do, business as usual, and we also now have to help roll a system out.
I know.
Help.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's no one else to help
Yeah.
us, right?
Do this in
Because
your part
you've
time.
got to do it at the side of your desk.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that piece around trying to take away that reactive element and be able to really educate the CEOs and the C-suite and having that connection point. Because I think, again, another area, especially if you're in a larger business,
Mhm.
is that what you'll find is payroll folks will share their data insights to a head of reward or a CHRO
Right.
or a head of finance, and it's bubbled up, but the message is sometimes lost, a bit like Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
And the message sometimes can be lost, but it also means that they don't have that direct relationship that they can say, here's the value in what
Yes.
I bring. And
Yeah.
that's a bit of coaching on how to
Yeah.
have that discussion and keep it really short, really
Yeah.
punchy and impactful and get your message across. If you can't do it in 3 sentences, you probably struggle
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
with
No,
CEOs
agreed.
are getting
Oh, yeah.
lots of stuff coming at them all the time. But
Yeah.
they want to know, but they don't realize that that asset is sitting there and it's
Agreed.
ignorance. It is
Agreed.
absolute ignorance at the moment. And that's one of the things that I do when I'm engaging a client. We like rolled it out across all the client engagements. We want to have a 2-minute conversation with the CEO directly.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if it's a strategy piece of work or it's, we are looking to change something.
Yeah.
The reason that we want to have that conversation with the CEO isn't to, cause any trouble between any organizations, but it's to look at the whites in the eyes of the CEO and
Yeah.
say, are you really invested in this? Is this person that's driving this conversation just now really, has the
Yes.
authority to make this decision? And I also want to know that if we're going through an evaluation, something changes, I can go back and I can say, you told me,
Yeah.
whites
Yeah.
to eyes,
You
like
know, I
trust.
love that. I love that because, one of the things, one of the very first questions in our survey in the Payroll Profession Confidence Index is, is your leadership team properly investing in payroll? Right? We ask that. Money on the table. Then we ask, right next question, but do you believe your leaders are actually invested in you? Because it's a totally different thing for me to put money on the table and say, Wendy, go buy software. It's a whole other thing for me to turn around and go, you know what? I want to make sure you're successful with this. I'm invested in your success. And that's a difference. That's a different outcome. And I love that we're seeing more getting that, are invested in payroll being a key part of the business strategy, the HR strategy, and that it is being prioritized within those things. And so, we need leaders to be more, not just throwing money on the table. It's not about just a piece of tech. It's about
Yeah.
a cultural way of treating payroll, I think,
The best
and prioritizing it.
100%. Best
Yeah.
transformation projects I've ever seen is when the CEO has been there helping
Yeah.
lead the change. Because when you have the CEO so invested in the people and saying this technology is going to make all of our lives better.
Yeah.
And if you can really get behind that, I mean,
Yeah. It's also
people
going to keep you
people
out of jail.
follow. Keep you out of jail, absolutely.
Yeah.
But people follow like great, inspiring leaders.
Yeah.
And, you know, that could even be a bit of the memo in the business case,
Yes.
around, I'm going to help you to over deliver on your growth projections
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
and if you want to be that people inspirational leader, there's always a boardroom facade
yeah.
and there's what they present out to the wider world. Like everyone has
Sure,
different
sure. Yeah.
shapes and colors that they'll share in their personality.
Right.
When we need to get to it, this is how we need to focus, and then the stage presence, and just trying to get the payroll team to actually connect their strategy and what they're connected
Yeah,
with to help
yeah.
visionary, people
They've
driven
gotta have that.
leaders
Yeah.
to be able to get that. And connecting those dots, you typically will hear that in HR communities, you don't hear in
Right,
payroll.
right.
So, how do you educate in that space to be able to help payrollers have that same
Yeah,
level of
yeah.
authority?
Do you think the CIPP and the other payroll associations are doing a good job of teaching those skills? Do you think it's their responsibility to teach those skills?
I
Or do
think
you
it's
think it's more on the leader to go and get those skills
I
or
think
training?
a leader in terms of payroll leader,
Yeah, the
or
payroll
yeah.
leaders. Do we need to maybe be teaching some of these softer sort of emotional intelligence sort of negotiation leadership kind of skill sets here? I
Well,
mean,
I've seen already that there's those courses that are
yeah,
available, and we're seeing an awful lot more
good.
of a
Yeah,
shift in that direction, certainly over the last couple of years, and that's great because
yeah,
I think that's something that can really help grow the
yeah,
individual
yeah.
and grow the profession as well.
I think they need that, and because I think that this role is going to become very much like a Big Four consultant. Only in you're embedded in your organization where your leadership should be turning to you for advice.
Yeah,
Hey, what do we? Here's what we're thinking. We're thinking about making this merger, this acquisition. Payroll needs to be at the table in those conversations. Payroll is probably one of the biggest and most important elements of a merger and acquisition,
do
right?
you
And
know?
it's not easy to do that in payroll. And we've all been there. I've had the CFO of a Disney, my CFO come to me and say, "Hey, we bought Fox Family. We need you to get this in the system in 90 days." And we had no idea it had even gone on.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were scrambling. And back then that was very antiquated time frame compared to right now. And we were on the latest thing.
And I
So
bet you worked through the night to get it
oh, we
done.
worked
Uh
constantly to
huh.
get it done, and we did, and that's the problem, I think, is that, we put payroll on their heels, and they're amazing athletes, mental athletes that make it happen, and because they make it happen, it's like, well, you can make it happen, right? If you can do it, what's the problem? What do you need investment for? But why are we stretching them thin? Why are we putting them in a position to potentially fail when we should be putting them in a position to
Thrive.
thrive? And,
Yeah.
and I almost liken it to like professional athletes. Why do we not do everything we can to make sure payroll has everything they need to make sure that the business is de-risked and the employees are happy and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing as a business. We don't, right? We
I
just try to bleed it to death, and that's what drives me crazy.
I think that the more that education that's out there, the
Yeah,
more networks and payroll professionals could get into the likes of CIPP, the Global Payroll Alliance,
yeah.
Payroll Org. There's tons of information, education networks out there. And the community, I think,
The
especially
community, the
since
community.
the pandemic, the payroll community over here really held
Yeah.
it together, shared tons of
That's where their
insights.
value is in these groups. It's
There's
not even, I mean, yeah, there's great value in all the education that they do, but the real, like, I believe the real ROI is the community that you build and the people.
100%.
Because I said this at the end of our thing yesterday. Don't suffer in silence. Don't
Mhm.
do it. One of us, someone in this room, reach out to somebody because somebody in this room has gone through what you've gone through. They're
Maybe
dealing
10
with this
times.
maybe multiple times, maybe whatever. Or and if they haven't, they can get you to someone who has, or they can help maybe talk you through the parts that they know. But your community is as powerful as an entity as any of this education or anything you can find online or anything you can go and ask ChatGPT. You really ought to go to your community and say, "Hey, help me, right? What do you guys see and what do you think?"
I'm a
You know,
huge fan of
because
shared
there's no right or
insights.
wrong answers. There's just options, right? And
Shared
then paths.
insights and building
Yeah.
on ideas. There's no one genius, I don't believe,
No.
in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
But when people come together and they build a concept and build collaboratively,
Yeah.
that's when genius really happens.
Yeah. I love it.
And that for me is that sharing the insights, and problem shares, problem halved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the more that people can share their insights, then the more open education you've
Yeah.
got for free.
Yeah.
We were just having that conversation around
Yeah.
how can we really help to educate without that cost impact. And that's the piece where sharing insights and
Yeah.
just having a bit more like information before you go down the path. Everyone's long,
Yeah.
that having that opportunity, I think, is huge for our industry.
What would be your advice maybe to organizations that are either paralyzed or maybe just sort of floundering a little bit when it comes to this? Maybe they're inquiring, maybe they're looking, they've got some problems, whatever the case might be. What would you say to them, the practitioner and the C-suite in those organizations that need to do something and are a little bit paralyzed? Because I see a lot of that in the market where they know they need to do something, but they're just not that confident to go do it. And you're right, like, should we spend the
It
money?
goes
Should
on
we
the
take the
"it's too
risk?
hard" pile. It
Yeah,
goes absolutely do
later.
nothing.
Yeah.
It's too
Payroll is the
hard.
can that always gets kicked down the road.
We've got,
Yeah.
end of quarter, or we've
It's
got,
always a reason not to,
always.
but
Everyone
yeah.
will always
What would you
find an
say to that?
excuse.
To the frontline payroll guy folks, but also the C-suite, what would you say to them?
Get out your comfort zone,
Yeah.
right? Get out your comfort zone. Have some tough conversations around, let me have some time. Sometimes even payroll folks struggle to get time away from work to be able to
Right,
go to
right.
industry
Do you know,
events.
yeah, I was at the, Payroll Org Congress, right? We were there, you were there.
Yeah.
We missed each other, but it was massive. How many people were processing payroll in the hallways? How many billions, millions, maybe
I
billions of
did my
dollars,
payroll.
right?
I did my
That
payroll in the
hallway,
hallway.
that was a command center for possibly the world's payrolls. I mean, well, at least North American probably, but I would love to know the number. I would love to know the volume of payroll that got processed in the
Do you
hallway.
know, you should ask them to put it on their survey next year.
They should
Yeah, I'll
ask.
speak to
Yeah.
Dan
Have
about
you
it.
ever processed
Yeah,
payroll
just
here?
ask him if he can put it on the
And maybe
survey.
it's not processing payroll, but maybe they're out there, answering a question or dealing with some file, or
Of course
having to
they are.
approve something. I know as a manager, I have to approve things, and
Do you know,
back in the day,
even this morning, like
yeah,
during sessions, people are pulling their phone out.
right.
I think we're kind of
It's
addicted
Thursday.
to
Yeah.
we're addicted to this
Oh,
digital device. Like
yeah.
it's always in our
It
hands.
owns us.
Or you get the flash in the watch that
Yeah, yeah,
says, "Hey, you've had an email and such and
yeah.
such." But like payroll people are inherently so committed to
Right.
what they have to do, that they will not miss their deadlines. They will not stall.
Yeah.
They will not, like, in some cases, they don't take the opportunity for them
Yeah.
because
Oh,
they're
yeah.
they're absolutely set on doing what they need to do. And I think sometimes having that moment to be a little selfish on self belief, growth, educating, having the time away from work so you
Yeah.
can actually go and
Rest. Yeah.
learn some of these other things
Breaks my
and make
heart to
new
hear people
friends.
say that they can't take a vacation without doing payroll while they're on vacation. That's
I
just,
haven't heard that in a while, to
come
be
on.
honest.
You know,
I
it's
haven't
smaller companies, I think,
I
but
I haven't heard that in
yeah.
a long time, but I have heard people say, "I'll just take my phone with me in case my
No,
team need it."
so
But you're never
disappointing.
getting like, if you don't have downtime, you
Yeah.
actually come back
Self-care.
just as
You need some
tired.
self-care. Yeah.
100%. And I think that's the area where, payrollers, if they can get the investment to come to events and learn and network, then that will help give them the toolkit to be able to start having those
Yeah.
real life-changing conversations for their businesses.
Yeah.
And that's where, how do I get the conversation going with the CHRO to get access to the CEO? Not
Right.
everyone even gets access to CEO, but I guarantee you, every CEO that I've ever spoke to, if their customer's unhappy, they want to know because
Yeah.
they want to get to their customer.
That's revenue.
Payroll is responsible for every person in his or her
Right?
business's engagement. I bet they want to know.
100%.
And that's the type of conversation that I'm having with the CEOs that I've been interviewing to really help them to understand. Actually raise a really good point. I never thought about it like that.
It's a
Right?
tremendous shift of the lens to say, look at it this way. And I don't think that they see, I just don't think people, to your point, and I don't say this to be rude, but they're ignorant to what payroll actually even does to know. I say this all the time, like, in boxing or martial arts, they tell you it's never the punch that you see coming. It's the one that you're being set up for, or you don't realize is coming. These C-suites and these companies are in dangers that they don't recognize, right? They're not knowing that they're operating absent, knowing they're actually in danger
Mm.
because they're not performing well on a compliance level, or they're not performing well with their employees, and it's going to trip them at some point, and they're oblivious to it.
Hey, I've seen
Oblivious.
organizations that can't even tell you where their employees are.
Oh, that was a pandemic that shined. How much in HCM did that shine? That really helped the
Hey,
HCM providers.
it helped me in my point in my
Yeah,
career at that point, my
because
team.
they didn't. People were scrambling. Where are our people? What do we do? How do we pay them? How do we move money to these people?
And then
All of this
global
became
mobility,
important. Yeah.
because people moved.
Where are they?
They
Yeah.
didn't want to live in the city where they got
They're in
held up for a
RVs
couple
driving
of
around with their
years.
families. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
compliance nightmare. And if you don't have your hands on that, that can be a real problem
100%.
when someone comes to audit and starts asking questions selections, and it will happen. If there's no, you can't be in any sizable payroll without an audit at some point. Even if you're doing everything right, you will at some point be audited. It just
Yeah.
is what it is.
Some
And
some or some
yeah,
governments target
oh, for sure. For
intentionally,
sure.
like
For
the
sure. Yeah.
campaigns
I
come in
remember one time
regions.
we had some challenges at Disney when we were converting over from, moving from shared services from decentralized to a shared services, and we had an employee that actually in the legacy team had purposely sabotaged some things. I know it was crazy. It was a labor relations sort of conflict or something. But long story short, we were inundated with some audits right away. And one of the audits, they came in, it was like New York City or something, and they came in and they had this list of random selections, and it was like Barbara Walters, Peter Jennings. I was like, this isn't random. You've just picked all of the like wealthiest people on this entity, ABC News or whatever. So yeah, there is a bit of a targeting. You're right. Sometimes where these auditors will go after things,
But
but
if
but you know what? If you have squared away data and you've done your thing, you've done the right things, you have controls, and you've got proper process, I'm confident. Look at anything you
exactly,
want to look at.
but
We're not
also
worried.
go to events, go to
Yeah.
industry events, because then you hear where they're targeting.
Yeah.
You
Listen,
get more insight. You
these
shared
entities need their
learnings.
revenues. They want their we listen to the tax gap, right? 5.3%, 47 billion pounds here that is being missed by employers that aren't paying proper taxes, right? By the HMRC yesterday.
Oh,
And how cool is it that CIPP is embedded in that now?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
we
hope it sets an example for businesses to say, hey, if they're bringing payroll to the table, why aren't you?
well,
You know?
I'm really lucky because I don't know if you saw Jenny Morris. In fact, Jenny is part of our WH People Network. She was on another stage while we were on stage, so I
Yeah.
missed her session,
Yeah.
but I heard all about it. But she's a national minimum wage compliance expert,
Yeah.
and she's part of our network, and she shares an awful lot around, organizations that actually, if you're a salaried worker, how are you really tracking the time?
Yeah.
Like if you've
Yeah.
worked through your lunch break or you've worked late, you worked all weekend, you could be at risk, even if you're on a really high salary,
That's
to be
true.
in breaching national minimum wage. And so even hearing the insights around the campaigns of where the HMRC are really targeting through the campaigns, you wouldn't know that stuff. I wouldn't learn that stuff if I didn't have the opportunity to
Yeah.
network with Jenny and to hear that. And then it's about risk prevention
Yes.
and
Yeah.
being able to help organizations to be covered in that
That's what
space.
payroll is if you net it down to its core. It's risk management at its
Absolutely.
very essence. And I don't know that that's what the C-suite sees. I think that they just see
So
paychecks.
maybe we change the dial on that. Maybe it's not that
Yeah.
we're payroll anymore, but we're moving more into
Compliance
compliance.
experts. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Australia is trying to credential their payroll professionals on par with lawyers and CPAs in that same sort of compliance. And I think they've got kind of a compliance verbiage in their proposed new titles. But
Mhm.
they're making. You should really check that out. I have a few podcasts out on that. The work that they're doing over there with it was the Australian Workforce Compliance Council. Now it's the I forget what it is. I apologize to Kyron, but I'll have to. The podcasts are coming out. They're doing a lot of great work with the government and really trying to re-credential payroll, treat it as its own industry, and give it a body of knowledge that then can be used to educate and in the universities, which I know you guys do here in the UK. So yeah, no,
And
look,
I'm
we're
shout
making
out for
incremental
Sam.
progress.
Huge shout out for Sam from policy. She
Oh
does a
yes, yes,
fantastic
we
job.
did an episode with her. She's going to be one of the first ones
She's
we put on here.
awesome. I'm a huge fan.
Amazing,
I'm a
amazing.
huge fan. I
I
did
know.
actually start screaming as she went to stage yesterday. Huge fan.
Yes. Just to recap, she basically the CIPP has
Head of policy.
embedded,
Yep.
has a head of policy, has an embedded representative at the HMRC, which is similar to the IRS in the US,
Yeah.
to work with them on their digital transformation initiative that is going to transform their tech, the processes, all of that. And how cool is that payroll is being an advisor?
I love that she and the
It's
team are
groundbreaking.
influencing
It's groundbreaking.
government,
Yeah.
and they always are driving that campaign
Yeah, yeah.
because of the
And a
members.
dialogue, just a dialogue that's a win, even if they didn't have someone embedded, that they have this really flowy dialogue that I think is going to be so and influence on it.
And
That's what's key.
members have a voice that
Yeah.
Sam wants to hear. You heard them on stage yesterday. Talk to us. Let us know what you're looking for, your ideas, your concerns, share that with us because then they can represent everyone on
Yeah.
behalf of CIPP, on behalf of all of the members and payroll professionals that they represent. It's so important. Like you want a voice in
Yeah.
payroll, become a member, like drive that engagement
Yeah.
and
Tap into this community too, right? I mean,
100%,
yeah.
100%.
I love it. I love it. Well, Wendy, thank you so much. Good luck to you. Congratulations on the new entity. I know you guys are killing it out there,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, keep preaching to the masses and letting them know what we need to do to prioritize payroll.
And
So
I look forward to seeing you again soon, my
always,
friend.
always.
Thank you.